Okay, so today in the video we'll be demonstrating OWASP Juice Shop web application. But before that, we're gonna run some preliminary tools. So first of all, I use Docker to host my OWASP Juice Shop. Now I'm gonna run Docker V to check the version of Docker that is currently installed in my system. So now I have Docker version 19.03.13. which happens to be the latest version of Docker that is out there right now. Once we know what version of Docker we're running, we just want to see if Docker is running as a service. So we're going to do service Docker status, and here we see it's active and running. Okay, you press Q to get out of the service status menu, and now next thing we will do is we're gonna check to see if Docker works properly. Not running, but working properly. So sudo docker run hello world, which is usually the first image that is downloaded whenever we install Docker. So I'm just going to do it for the sake of functionality. Okay, so this is a message shows that your application or your installation appears to be working correctly, which is a good start. It's a good sign. Okay. So now without further ado, we're going to be initiating our OWASP Juice Shop instance by putting in the command sudo docker run with the --rmp 3000 as your host port and 3000 as your container port, bkminich Juice Shop. So bkminich happens to be the brains behind Juice Shop, and without further ado, we're going to press enter. So it'll take a few seconds and we'll be back. Back to the video. Now that we see that our OWASP Juice Shop container instance is up and running, so here we can see that our server is listening on port 3000. Let's do a quick verification by running sudo nets.tulpen grep 3000. Okay, so here we can see that our port 3000 is currently listening, and we open our web browser here and type localhost 3000. So it's already mapped to localhost 3000 because I've already visited this website previously. Here you can see a bunch of notifications that are appearing because I've already done a few challenges. So you have the option of doing tutorials just to better understand how this how the attack works. So one thing I really noticed about Juice Shop is that it's like any other generic online store out there. But this website is full of vulnerabilities that we can exploit using cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, and SQL injection. If you look at this left part of the menu, you have contact, customer feedback, about us, scoreboard. Let's have a look at the scoreboard. So to find the scoreboard, we had to first dig a little bit deep into the code of the web page and find a function which contained a hidden link to get the scorecard. So as here we can see, that there are a bunch of numerous challenges that are out there which are unsolved at this point. So further in the video we'll be solving more of these challenges to further progress and be able to exploit different vulnerabilities and loopholes of this website. So stay tuned for more. this segment of the video, we will be demonstrating the access log challenge. So the main objective of this challenge is to be able to gain access to any log file on the server. So it falls under the category of sensitive data exposure. So you never know. Whenever you traverse through a log file, you might find sensitive information, what time it was accessed, who accessed it, which server was involved, what client sent the request, and so on. So in this scenario, I would use Dirbuster. So I did some research on this attack and on this challenge rather, and I found someone else. He used a program called FUF, but instead of FUF, I decided to use Dirbuster. So Dirbuster is basically the GUI version of Derby. It's just the same thing. The only thing is functionality is different media. They function the same, but it's different. So I just copied the URL of my JuShop app website. So you must be noticing that instead of Docker, I'm now using Heroku to host my OWASP JuShop. Earlier, because I had issues with Docker and it will not scan properly with Docker. So without further ado, I'll just paste my URL and I ensure that this goes faster. Okay, so 200 threads. And now we have to provide a word list file so it can use it as a means of brute forcing. Under the root directory, we go to user, share, and then scroll all the way to the right until you hit W for word lists, Derby, common.txt. So this common.txt contains common words or common phrases that you use to break into directories or brute force into directories. So here you can say by default the file extension is set to PHP. You can set it to anything. You can set it to PDF, JPEG, MD, etc., etc. But we're going to leave this blank for the sake of testing for directories. So I'm going to use blank extensions. Okay, and brute force files, brute force directories, be recursive. Dir to start with is slash, which is the root directory of the website. And without further ado, we shall start it up. Okay, so it's testing for directories. So this is going to take a lot of time, as suggested by the time to finish. However, I would not trust this because this keeps fluctuating and depending on the speed of the computer, how the brute force will be done is depending on the speed of the computer. So now we have a Dirbuster open. We found that the FTP server had incident support.kdbx. So we're gonna be scanning brute force again, but this time with the support directory, and I will put my file extension as log and make sure that we use a word list to do our brute force properly. Okay, and then we use the same common.txt, logs, and support log, the logs with a capital L. So without further ado, let's try to navigate to the support directory and then slash capital logs. We don't see anything. It's a blank white page. Now we're gonna have a look at L with a small l and do the same thing. Okay, I'll have to refresh the app. Okay, this is strange. I misspelled support. What's wrong with me? Okay, let's try it again. So here we have one access log over here from 2020, December 2nd, which was quite recent. Save the file. Let's have a look here. That's the most recent log file. So you can see a lot of HTTP requests from this given public IP address and at the given time frame as well. Okay, but this is not what we're after. What we're after is logs. We can have a look at some other logs. Let's refresh that real quick. And I believe it was the same log that we found. And then let's go back to our home page, and we've pretty much solved the challenge. You successfully solved the challenge. Access log. Okay, so in this part of the video we'll be demonstrating the extra language challenge over here. Here it appears that I have solved it already, but for the sake of demonstration I will do it again. So the main objective is to retrieve the language file that never made it into production. So there's one language out there that never made it to the final cut of the website. Alright, so let's go on Google and look for OWASP Juice Shop language. So here we see that OWASP, the first link is hosted by Crowdin. So Crowdin is used as a third-party app for translations for different websites and applications out there. So here we have a list of available translations for the OWASP Juice Shop web application. So let's compare the languages quickly. Okay, so we happen to have Azerbaijani, Indonesian, Catalan, Czech, Danish, German, Estonian, English, Spanish, French, Italian, Polish, Latvian, Hungarian, Dutch, Norwegian, Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, Russian, Romanian, Swiss German, Finnish, Swedish, Turkish, Greek, Bulgarian, Georgian, Hebrew, Arabic, Hindi, Thai, Burmese, Korean, Standard Chinese, Japanese, Hong Kong Chinese, and Taiwan Chinese. So if we look here, all the aforementioned languages are there, but there's one language that is not there. So we have found the language, which is Klingon. It's not a real language. So here we can see that the code of the language is TLH, and then the country code is AA. Although I've never seen any country code with AA, so let's do a quick Google search. Country code AA. Although it's shown to be Aruba, surprisingly. And the language is Klingon. So let's do another Google search on Klingon. So Klingon are a fictional species. So it's a fictional species. It's a fictional language, basically, in Star Trek. Fun fact. Anyhow, so Klingon didn't really make it to the production, and it's binded to native language of Aruba. So now without further ado, I will be going and starting a burp suite instance. So let's quickly run a burp suite. So I'm gonna do burp suite community edition. It's gonna give it a minute to load. So we're gonna do a temporary project here. Next, use burp defaults, start burp. Alright, so now that we have that under control, so we're gonna go to proxy and interception is on. So we're gonna intercept all our HTTP traffic. But before that, we need to make sure that our browser is configured to the proxy. So we go here on preferences and scroll all the way down until we find network settings, and then currently it's marked to no proxy, which is the default. And then we go here to manual proxy configuration. So therefore, burp suite listens on the local host. So it's the loopback address, and then it's binded to port 8080 by default. So we click OK. So you're gonna note that when I click on any one of these languages, you will not be able to see the language because it's gonna take a really long time to reload. But you'll see what's happening behind the scene uh, if when I refresh and I see all the HTTP traffic coming through. Okay, so without further ado, let's choose a language. So let's say we want to load Italian. Okay, so here we see that assets I18N IT. So IT stands for Italian uh, code, and then the big IT, the capital IT after the underscore, is the country code for Italy. So here we can see that we have successfully got the HTTP traffic for loading the JSON to Italian, like loading the language to Italian. So let's refresh that and let's see. Here we see more requests as soon as I refresh, and then I stop right here. So the amount of requests are generating. Alright, so if we go here, go on the Italian one right here. So get assets. We copy this and go to the repeater, and then paste it over here. But before that, before we do anything of that, so go to our thing. We make sure we get the IP address because so if you want to send that request back to the given IP, we can modify the request and resend it, and therefore we'll be one step closer to solving our challenge in a moment here. So going back to the language website that we browsed on, so if we go here, we have Klingon over here. So Klingon's language code, as you see on the bottom left, is TLHAA. Okay, so now we go back, go to our repeater, get assets I18N IT. Instead of IT, you replace it to TLH hyphen AA. So we want to send this over here. We give it our IP address as we found it on the HTTP interception. So it's going to be 54, 175, 233, 252. And we may put the port to 443 HTTPS and then use HTTPS. And then we click OK. Well, we should be getting a response. Strangely. However, when I did this previously, I got a response, and okay, and then I was able to solve the challenge. So there we have it. This challenge has been solved. In the final segment of the video, we'll be doing the last challenge. I thought of doing the leaked access logs challenge. Okay, so it says to dumpster dive the internet for a leaked password and log into the original user account it belongs to. So basically what it's trying to say is we have to find a password and dumpster dive for a log on the internet which contains that password, and we use that password to find out which user it belongs to really. So without further ado, let's go and dumpster dive. Okay, so here we are. So we just look for leaked access logs, OWASP Juice Shop. Okay, so here we see a bunch of links related to that, but that's not where it is. So I did some research on it. So I found out that we have to go to Stack Overflow. Go to Stack Overflow, and we go to questions, and then we search. So we search with the square brackets, which happens to be a tag in Stack Overflow, and we type access -log, and then we close the square bracket. Look for it. So, are you a human being? Okay, let's solve this CAPTCHA anyways. And that. Okay. We are in here. And we just keep scrolling down until we find something that is relevant and of interest to us. I don't think it was in the first page. Aha, okay. I think we found what we looked for. So here we can see that the URL is http localhost 3000 bkiminich. Okay, let's verbose access logs using express.js Morgan. Okay, so I'm using GitHub, blah blah blah, and here we have our less verbose output of the log file. So if we go over to this link provided below, here we see the different events and the timestamps each event occurred. So what we're basically looking for in this log dump is keyword is password. So here we found out the password right here. So it's invoking a GET request for the current password to be this, and then the new password would be changed over to this, and it would repeat this. So for example, whenever you're changing a password, right, so you always like provide your email ID, but at this point we don't have it. We don't seem to have it, so might as well try to brute force into the system and look for different email addresses that correspond to the given password. Okay, so we'll be back in a few minutes. After we brute forced the password, one thing I really forgot to mention was that this password in the given log entry right here was encoded in the URL when inside the GET request. So what I did here, I copied the encoded password, and then I went to a URL decoder. Okay, and then I pasted it. So we want to decode it, and this is our original password. Voila. And then we copy that paste it over here. So just for the sake of this video, I did not demonstrate the brute forcing process. So what I did basically was I basically copied every email address shown here on the list, starting from administrator to Jim, Bender, Bjorn Kiminek, CISO, support, until I got to this email right here, j12934juice.shop. So I copy the email address here, and then I paste it, and then I log in, and voila, here we are. We have logged in successfully as the user J12934 at Juice Shop. Alright, so I guess that concludes our Project 2 video. I hope you liked it, and I humbly thank you for watching it.